sometimes faith alone might not give you the necessary answer that you need.
One thing that the professional counselor recognizes is that most people trust God to resolve their problems.
What if you're in an assembly or in a religion that is preaching against this? How do you help such a person? What if the family you come from doesn't have to define the family you wish to create? What if the things that you seek for are things that you can just with a tap get it done? Hello, my name is Yusi Samuel and I am a family life practitioner. Today, I'll be presenting to you very wonderful guests on Family Life Podcast. We shall be considering a topic that is highly sensitive, yet because of its sensitive nature, people are silent on it. Now, one unique thing about the Family Life Podcast is it's a podcast where we showcase experts who have done this work for years and have used, tested, and trusted solutions from the Family Life Network. It is also intriguing to find out that more often than not, people try to look for family solutions from advice of friends who haven't even experienced this. But today, we're bringing you people who are in real touch with all the solutions that this particular topic can profile. In a bit, I will be unveiling this amazing guest. See you in a bit. Welcome back. I'm sure you are as intrigued and curious as I am. So today we are considering a topic very sensitive, like I said, and I am so excited because we have the best of guests to handle this topic today. I have a male and a female here with me. So, ladies first, let's meet her.
Modupe Ehirim is my name. I'm a marriage educator and a counselor.
Welcome. And the male.
Clement, Okafor. I'm a counselor and a relationship therapist too.
Beautiful. So because of the topic today, which I am about to yet unveil to you, we have these wonderful guests. Today's topic, faith versus therapy. Which one heals marriage relationships better? So, whether you are currently going through that or you had previously experienced that, this session today, this episode, would be able to handle all questions that are lurking in your heart. So sometimes we have people say, should I pray about this? Or should I book a therapy session? Should I speak to my pastor? Or should I speak to a professional? So all of those confusion and all of those worries today will be given a sense of direction. And I pray that you stay put to get all that you need to know about this topic. Now, I don't know if you're like me, who also perceives the fact that most of us that are in the Christian community or the faith-based community, we have a lot to worry when we say we want to go for a session. Some see you as someone who lacks faith. Others see you as someone who does not know what you're doing with your religion. Is there really a war between these two things? Is it possible for them to collaborate and serve you as an individual? At what point do you move from this to this? Now, all of those are what we will be unveiling in this session. So to start this, let me start with the lady. Mrs. Ehirim, you have been in this work for quite a while. And one good thing about you is that you are dealing with the field of marriage, where you have diverse people, both those who are in the faith community and those who are not, both those who understand marriage and those who do not. They come to you and you deal with them, you work with them every day, you work with them every now and then. So how would you go about telling them, for instance, that someone says, this is the will of God for me in marriage, and now I'm experiencing trouble in it. What would you advise the person to do? What would you think is the first thing you would say to such a person?
Thank you very much, UC. That actually is a question that many people struggle with, particularly to do with marriage. So you have people who come thinking, oh, I thought this was the will of God for me, and now things are not going well in our marriage. Or you have people who have different faith levels. This constantly shows up. I think one thing that a professional counselor recognizes is that most people trust God to resolve their problems. However, the practical steps to actually make that faith work is what they learn. So when people struggle with, should I really talk with a counselor? Will that not be a weakening of my faith? Shouldn't it be my pastor I should go to? One thing that I say to them is this: your faith is intact. Pray. But when you have finished praying, go out to get the practical wisdom that you need to address the issues that you're facing.
Beautiful. So I hear you sounding like it's something we can combine. It's something that you need to know that if you're a faith-based person, you need to pray. You can also do a therapy. That's what I'm hearing from you. And if that's what you're saying, Pastor Clement, why do some people feel guilty then seeking therapy when they have faith? Why do they feel guilty if you can say faith from what Mrs. Ehirim has said to us?
Yes, I agree with Mrs. Ehirim very well. I think the problem most Christians have is a problem of understanding. Because you need to have understanding that, just like Bible says that faith without work can't work. You have faith, but there's also another process that involves work that must go with it. So because a lot of people are ignorant, they don't ask questions, they don't look at the process. And that's why they feel that there's no need going to look for therapy. Let me just depend on prayer. But God has said this thing is going to work. Sorry, maybe let me just say, like when God told Israel that he was going to give them manna, manna will fall somewhere, but they needed to go to where the manna was to pick the manna. That's the same thing with what we are doing. You believe God, God has said something, you must apply the work that is in it. Why do people feel guilty? It's because of ignorance. Because they feel if they go to a therapist, they will defile their faith. That's just the basic thing. And it is wrong. You are not going to defile your faith. And again, maybe where people are also coming from, people are not taught to take that step, of going to look for therapy.
Okay.
They may feel that if they move out, maybe they are doing something that is contrary
to their faith and to their confession. Exactly. But let's make this a little clearer. I have also been with folks who, in their churches, these things are preached against, right? Because we are now saying individuals may not have understanding that they need this. What if you're in an assembly or in a religion that is preaching against this? How do you help such a person? Mr. Ehirim, this is for you. How do we? Because it's a little tough where you submit, where you worship, and then this thing is not being spoken of as something you should do.
I think I'm going to use an illustration that most people will very quickly identify with. So imagine a couple in a toxic marriage. Or imagine a couple in a marriage where one person is an addict. Let's say addicted to gambling.
Okay.
Usually among faith-based people, we take it to God and we ask God for intervention to move that person, to change the behavior, and all of that is good. But we also know now from research that God can intervene miraculously, which is what most people really wish. They feel that if God didn't intervene miraculously, then they've not exercised faith. However, research has also shown that, the addict needs to go through a process in order for the behavior to be addressed and changed. The challenge now is that many faith organizations preach that if the change did not happen miraculously, then you did not have faith. But I would like to say to people that, change happens the way that God chooses it to happen. I happen to have grown up in a denomination. In fact, it was when I became an adult and started doing this work that I realized that people thought it was counterfeit to go to therapy. In the denomination I grew up in, when you bring the matter to church, prayer group will meet to pray, and then pastor will investigate who are you supposed to go and talk to in order to get wisdom to address the issue. So I would like for our audience to know that, the people you go to who give them wisdom, it is God. The research that has been done, how was it organized? It is God. And I think the last thing I'm going to say, that makes people to be afraid, especially religious people, is that there is a subtle belief that the principles that are used by counselors are counter or are hateful to faith.
The faith.
On the contrary, if you study the growth of psychology and related issues, many of the founding fathers were faith-based people who were very concerned and were trying to understand these issues. And that's how many of the principles that we use in today's world actually came about.
I hear you, Mommy, more, because this is what we call you, and that's because of the massive work you're doing. So this contradiction shouldn't exist in the first place. You are saying it is God who is responsible even for the wisdom that is being deployed in the therapy. And as you were talking, is it possible that we have Christian therapists too, Pastor Clement? Is it possible?
Well, I'm a Christian. You just called me a pastor.
And you're doing this. I'm doing the work. So just in case some persons are wondering and they don't know how to go about it, the first port of call can be to start with a Christian therapist if you're not so sure and you think that probably those of them who are not Christians can't handle your complaints. And so
that even there are Muslim therapists. Indeed, there are people who believe in African traditional religion. What distinguishes a professional counselor or a professional therapist is that they have undergone a training process, like the medical doctors do, like the pharmacists do. They have undergone a training process that enables them to listen to people and diagnose and say, okay, this might be what is wrong. The second thing also is that they look way beyond the symptoms and look to the roots. So when a man comes and says, I don't even understand what my wife is doing, we're not seeing eye to eye, the professional counselor, whether they are faith-based or not, what they're trained to do is to look at the husband and look at the wife, look at where they're coming from, look at the things that have shaped them, look at the beliefs that they have in order to determine what is the real cause of this problem.
That's a full assessment. That's more like running a full assessment. And then I hear you clearly. So most of these therapists obtain certifications. That's what you're saying. They didn't just wake up and begin to do this. So it's interesting what this episode today is revealing, so that you don't just think that people who are professional, that's why they are professional. I know there are parts too. I know there are people who wake up and call themselves everywhere on social media. They're there. We have relationship coaches. We have coaches for everything. But people, they are saying that it's important that you stick with a professional therapist, a professional practitioner, family life practitioner. That will give you an advantage because they are trained and they obtain certifications. And I'm glad that our audience is speaking this.
Can I also adjust
sure, yes, please.
Just to add to what Mamimu said. Yeah. You see, in fact, we have greater advantage when you say you are a faith-based and you are a professional, because now you can combine both. Why the faith-based is also using the word of God. He's also using those other tools which he or she had professionally acquired to solve the problem. So it makes it even better if Christians, or not just Christians, if
even our Muslim
faith-based,
yes,
faithfuls, whether you're a Muslim, you're a Christian or what, you can apply that faith and then the professionality. It puts you on a better terrain than somebody using just one side of it.
Oh, so that's beautiful, because I think that most of the people, the problem they have is gaining clarity and insight, which is what you're doing today to help a lot of people who are there to stop feeling guilty, to stop feeling like with a sense of judgment that they are lacking faith or that they don't know what they're doing with their Christian walk. It's been established today that it is still God who gives men wisdom, and He can do that in diverse ways.
Exactly.
So where we're praying, we can still have assessment that can get us to what the tools to work with. If I get you. So stop feeling guilty and decide to take the solution that your problem or your challenges need. So this will be probably, as we're rounding up, how can faith and therapy then, having established that none is quite wrong for anybody to take depending on the nature of your problem. So how can faith and therapy work together to create a long-term healing in marriages or in other family life problems? And let me start with you, Pastor Clem.
Okay, I think it's just like somebody goes to a hospital to see a doctor, and then the doctor says, go and run a test. You go, run the test, you get the result. The next thing is, what type of drugs we apply? Because the doctor is not the one that will give you drugs. He sends you to the pharmacist.
The pharmacist, yes.
Who will not give you the drugs. But the thing is that he has idea from the test that these are the drugs that you have to use. That's the same way this thing works. When a therapist do whatever, we don't just look at issues. We also look at the solution. Just like Mommy Mo says, we look at it from other angles. It's not just from the angle of prayer and the word of God, but we also go ahead. What are the significant experiences you've had before? Where are you coming from? This. We look at it from that angle, and then we now give you a solution that will work. Not just go and pray, but there are other practical things that you also need to apply, and then jam it with the faith that you have, and then you get a proper solution. But to just stay on one side and say this one works, no. Sometimes faith alone might not give you the necessary answer that you want. You apply those steps, those things that the therapist has told you. Once you apply those steps and then back it up with your faith, I think you get a better result.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think I like that. And just to take it off from there, Mommy Mo, what can you say to someone who is having some problems? The person is praying, but things are not changing. What will be your counsel to such a person?
Actually, this is what I always tell my people. Sometimes we're praying, God, please solve this problem. And God is pointing us in a direction. So this is what I advise people. One, if you are encountering these problems, can you make your primary prayer point, Lord, who can I talk to about this? Rather than saying, God, this man or this woman. So when you say, Lord, who should I really talk to? God will then direct you in the way of a therapist. When you're going to that therapist, you can also pray, Lord, as I go to this therapist, give them wisdom, to guide me aright. And when the therapist also gives you advice and counsel and does all of those things, I do it when I'm going to the hospital. I say, Lord, I don't know this doctor before. The doctor doesn't know me. But for them to be a fit instrument, you have to prepare them. And almost always, God actually helps the doctor to know things which I probably might not have told the person. And then when you then get the solution offered to you, as you are applying the solution, you are also asking God to make that solution work in your life. So essentially what you're doing in that way is that you have made your visit to the therapy part of God's way of working with you. Are we saying that, you should not be a faith person? Are we saying that you should not trust God for the miraculous? Of course, do so. The man I love the most in the Bible is David. And I follow every time he asks God's instruction. And if you go read the story of David, there are many times when God told David to do things, and as a human being, David will be wondering, am I sure? What if you consider your visit to the therapist as an instruction from God which you don't really feel you should do. But because you're trusting God, you actually go to the therapist.
Yeah.
I think the mistake many faith-based people make also is that we pray and then we want God to answer the prayer in a particular way, in our own way. So you pray, God, do this for me, but you must answer this thing, through this pattern. But if only we can, just like she said, do it, then allow God to lead you. So I have seen God use ordinary people in the Bible, people who were not, He used them and still accomplish the same purpose that He wanted to accomplish. So a therapist, you can be a faith-based person, you can pray, God can now direct you, go to this other person. He's not a pastor or a faith-based person, like you. Just like the doctors that we use. Some of the doctors, that treat us are not Christians. They are not even faith-based. But because of the knowledge, expertise that they have acquired, God wants to use that expertise to solve your problem. So you don't have to dictate how God should solve your problem. Yours is solve this problem. He now says, go to this person, go to that person. And then that's how
the solutions come.
This thing come.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. In fact, today's episode has revealed so much that God can work either ways. It doesn't have to be either or. He can use therapy. He can use faith. And also that asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Right? And also that miracle can happen in the counseling room. It doesn't have to be only probably in the church or in the mosque. So these are the major takeaways I want you to have. In case you're someone listening to us and you're struggling with something, God can use the faith, God can use the therapy. And that also this miracle you seek can happen while counseling or discussing with you. So would you rather die in silence? No, step up. Seek for help. If you have access to therapy, use it. If you have access to a faith person, prayer teams in the church, use it. God can work either ways. So before we run away from here, it's been a fantastic time because even me, myself, I have learned a lot from this episode. And also, I think my faith is built up to discuss more with people, to feel free without any sense of guilt to access the gift of God, which comes in the gift of man. Right? So do you have anything, just half a second, if there's anything like that, so that they can take that?
Yeah, the only thing I can say is, please, those of us that are faith-based, let us learn to draw the line. Let us learn that when we get to this particular level and we need additional support from professionals, let us be bold and proud enough to go and seek professional help and meet a therapist. Don't just say faith. Because the therapist will apply some assessment. He's going to do some assessment, just like the lab test that you do. By the time he does those assessments, he gets the exact problem where, he gets the exact solution to your problems. And then they apply it.
And it is better than social media in-laws.
Yeah.
Right? It is better because what they're telling you now, instead of coming to set ring lights and start, oh my God, hear them now. Seek a therapist because, oh my God, the people that are talking to you, they don't have any training. And at the end of the day, solution is not met. So, Mommy Mo, what do you have to tell our audience?
Here is what I'm going to say to you all. The times that we're living in are different from 50 years ago. People will say to you 50 years ago, don't allow a third party into your relationship. I have a different perspective. Look for a third party that has the expertise and the skills to address the issues that you and your partner have tried your best to do by yourself and you cannot get help. You would be better off for it. And if you're a faith-based person, add works to your faith.
Thank you. And how will they assess you? Because I've just told them that to stop using social media in-laws. So they will ask me now, okay, so how do we meet you? Mommy Mo, how will they meet you so that they can talk to you?
You can contact me on Instagram, The Right Fit Marriage. And you can also follow me on Facebook, Modupe Ehirim.
Beautiful. Pastor Clem.
Yes, mine on Instagram is the relationship guru. The relationship
The
guru.
relationship guru.
And then Facebook, Clement Okafor. Yes.
All right. I hope you got that. We're going to put that down so that you can pick it in a bit. And also, this is brought to you by the Family Systems Engineering Network. So we have our Instagram page, Pro Family Life _. Pro Family Life _. There we give all relationship nuggets, and then you can access a pool of therapists, a pool of coaches, a pool of practitioners. And so you wouldn't be lost in anything that you are going through. Until we meet again, please stick by to this particular channel. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. This is not a channel that somebody will be begging you, because family issues is every day. Unless you don't come from a family, something must happen so you can have access directly. Go there and watch it. And there are more episodes coming in. So stick by, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so that you get to know once we upload new videos. Until then, I come your way. I remain your host, UC Samuel. Bye-bye.